If I could call tonight's meeting to order, Kathleen Allen. Here. James Bell. Amy Callan. Here. Brian Chetney.
Here.
Tom Chapa.
Here.
Brandon Legault.
Here.
Sam Tripp.
Here.
And Elise Manicha. If you would all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And tonight we have one person signed up for floor to the public. It is Jim McKenzie. If you could join us in the front here.
I have handout just in case you're interested. I want to start off by thanking you all for all of your service. I've talked to plenty of you before. It's a hard job. And getting here for 5 o'clock was something. And I saw a bunch of you running at the end, so thank you. I want to talk a little bit about the budget. And actually what I want to do is ask for your help. I've read different places that you're looking to help educate us on exactly what the budget, is all about. So I'm going to ask a few of my own questions, but I also want to ask that if you could you use your main website as a way to disseminate information that we need to make this kind of decision? In going through your, what is it called, board docs, it's navigable, I can get through it, but finding the specific piece of information isn't always there. So if you would, please consider the possibility of putting it a little bit more forward. So I do have a few things that I'd like, maybe not now, and please forgive me if later on is when you're supposed to do this, because I didn't see an agenda for the meeting after this meeting. But in the 2016-2017 budget, the district was forced to make a lot of drastic cuts, both personnel and in programs. And it really, what I heard a lot was it was because we were spending a lot of our revenues, and our revenue reserves, I should say. And I'm just wondering what's going to change now that allows us to spend $5.5 or maybe $6 million, depending upon what I read, in reserves to do this capital project. I also wonder, why is the number now $5.5 million rather than last year's proposal, which was $2 million, as I understand it. So that money's gone up, and I'm wondering why that is. I also wonder what is our current reserve balance, and I wonder how that is related to our statutory limit that obviously we must keep as an organization. I've also read that this is going to take until 2031 until completion. So I'm wondering, should we as the constituents expect that there will be no new capital improvements for the next 12 years? I mean, is that all we're looking at? And if that's how we're looking at it, what kind of metrics, what kind of studies have you used to look 12 years out to kind of see what might need to be done beyond this project? I also wonder if there are any kind of changes in building needs, maybe student needs, or maybe even our student population, and how this might affect what's going on given that this goes till 2031. What things may become obsolete that we're proposing now, or things that we don't know about that are coming up. We didn't do our lead study until Flint, right? Now it's in every one of the buildings as far as I can see as a proposal. I'm also wondering why this should be bundled together rather than put into 2, 3, or more different projects, especially if this contains field components, athletic components. It's already put into 4 different phases and goes to 2031. It sounds already ripe for multiple projects to put out there to let the voters decide. Finally, when we looked at least when I looked at the September 25th presentation that was posted that Dr. Guai gave, that all of the athletic fields were lumped into either Oswego High School or Lincoln. And I'm wondering if you could please provide us with a kind of itemized accounting of what the various aspects are labeled under exterior campus-wide site reconstruction. So, thank you for your time. Again, I really appreciate all your service. I gave a written comments. I didn't expect you ready to sign that. Thank you for your time. And I'm going to stick around for after to see how that goes, even though we don't have an agenda yet.
Jim,
Thank you.
we typically don't respond when people address the board, and if there are questions asked at a board meeting from someone who signs up to speak, I typically respond in writing,
Sure.
but your questions are so perfectly timed to the project as we're starting to launch it. We're spending so much time preparing
So I make sure I
answers to questions just like yours that I wanted to thank you for that, and assure you that I will either meet with you if you'd like, or I can respond in writing to your questions, but I think you're gonna see in the coming weeks, pretty comprehensive answers to everything that you've asked are questions that we've anticipated and are in our calendar of publications, videos, communications with the community so that you'll get those answers. But if you want to sit with me before then, I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the Board of Education proposed policy updates. That the Board of Education review and approve the first reading of the board policies listed below, and that these policies be placed on the November 20th, 2018 Board of Education meeting agenda for the second and final reading. The policies are listed below. Is there any questions? Motion? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, Tom, did you?
Actually, I'm sorry, I did have one question, and that was, because were you taking them as a lump, taking them all together? Is that almost like a consent agenda, or we take them all? My only question was for, I think it was surveillance and storage, Amy. And I didn't know, in terms of storage of all the information over time, in magnitude, do we work with Jamie in terms of all that data and how we're going to get that? Yeah.
I had asked at the previous meeting.
I mean, that was my only concern, because I know
Which letter is it?
it was, I think, surveillance, it was B.
Use of surveillance cameras in the school district and the school buses.
Yeah, and I just looked at, because it said storage in its original forms, whether it was a DVD, a video, or digital, but that could be a massive amount of information, and I just want to know how we're going to be prepared down the line to handle that. So I didn't know if it was a Jamie question, and also to make sure it's not going to be cloud-based, it's going to be hard located on site.
And I mean, I think that is a good question. That was something I had brought up after going to the security presentation that I went to by Randy Griffin. That was one of the things he had brought up, was talking about how you back up all of your information.
Right.
And making sure that you have a plan for, in the event of, you know, whether it's an emergency or not, that there's a specific plan for where all of this information goes. So I don't know what the answer is.
We have some redundancies that are built in. Jamie, can you talk about how we back up our
Network
technology
itself
stuff?
or the security cameras?
Either or, whatever.
We do
information
have
you
backup systems that are housed, and they're actually, since our move, we're actually reconfiguring where the backup is right now. But if something were to happen to our central networking site, we do back up all user accounts and sensitive information. Emails are backed up. I think one of the policies, it's not this specific policy you're talking about, but emails by one of our other policies, we have to save for 6 or 7 years, 6 years, I believe it says in the policy, minimum. So we do have data retention, and we do save a lot of things. As far as the security camera one in specific, I'd have to get together with Dean and kind of read that over and get back to you on how we're going to address that.
Okay, so then
Mark?
should we table this policy until we get the?
Well, this policy speaks specifically to buses,
Just buses? Okay.
and what they do is they actually have recording devices that are on the buses that start 3 minutes before, or as they turn on the bus and they're doing their pre-trip, so it starts then, and then it shuts down 3 minutes after they park. So the video is being recorded on the buses all that time. It is rewritten. The only time we would ever save anything is if there was a situation on a bus. We would get the information off of the tapes and then put them on some other device to use in the event that there was a discipline issue or something happened on the bus. Other than that, they're rewritten over. So we don't
Soon after, are they rewritten over?
think it's, I can check with Tom, I'm thinking it's 45 days, but I can confirm that.
I mean, because that actually raises another question, and I guess I never even thought of that. But if something were to happen on a bus, and if they're rewritten, and say maybe someone doesn't come forward until further down the road, then we just rewrote over the proof of, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I never thought about it. didn't know if that was the case, but if that's getting rewritten every 45 days, and then a situation with somebody on a bus,
Yeah.
they come forward.
Or even if they didn't, there was no situation and somebody accusing somebody.
Right, but now we're just gotten rid of the proof.
We can table that one and look into it deeper.
You all right?
Yeah,
I think that's a good
absolutely.
idea.
Right.
Could I have a motion to table,
Can I ask? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh,
No, I have
50?
another question about a different policy.
You wanna go first?
Go ahead, yeah.
Well, do you need to table that one first? It's okay.
If I could have the motion to table 5684,
I'll make the motion.
A second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
When policy met and we were talking about these, there was the one about the, it wasn't the EpiPen, what the heck was it?
Nebulizer.
Yeah. Did we get an answer from the head nurse about that? The nebulizer.
No, I think we pulled it, right, because we were still working on it, Karen. That's what
Yep,
I was
okay, so it's
thinking.
So
not-
that one's
It's
pulled.
not in this batch because we still wanted to sit and talk to Christine.
Okay.
Right,
Thank you.
we did have some preliminary conversation with Christine about the albuterol portion of
Right.
that
Right.
policy. Yeah.
We
So
have
it's- So
nebulizers,
it's not here.
they're all in schools.
Right. Do we provide it or not provide it, or do we wait for a prescription for it, which is what we do with that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Dr. Buick?
Okay. We don't have mics in here. It's loud here with this fan. Yeah, I gotta talk about it. A couple things tonight. The first one, I wanted to put a shout out to the Marching Buccaneers. They just completed their season. They have a really long season. They start in July. And they finish the end of October, early November every year at the Dome in the New York State Field Band Conference Championships. I had the pleasure, as I always do, to go and watch them compete late Sunday night. They placed sixth. I had them third. But they did really, really well, and I think we should be proud. I think they had probably one of their most successful seasons in a very long time. Went largely undefeated to the very end of the season. The kids did a great job. The next item I wanted to mention briefly was that we recorded the first edition of the Dean and Dane Show, and that was recently approved today and will be on WBC as well as on our website and very soon. The theme this year is a little bit different. We're talking about current topics that are happening in the district from month to month. This month, Dane and I talked about the completion of the mini capital project at Oswego High School around safety and security with the new main entrance. We talked about the expansion of the elementary literacy task force, something that we've talked about here quite a bit. This year, the literacy task force is, at the elementary level is going to reconvene to take a look at our 4 through 6 literacy model. And also this year, we're starting a new initiative. I'm starting a new initiative, which is the monthly picture book focus, and we launched that. We'll launch that each month on the Dane and Dean Show. This month, or actually for the month of for November, is a book that I chose that is called Each Kindness. And the book that we choose each month that will be read by invitation in kindergarten through 6th grade classrooms, as well as 11th and 12th grade English classes. We focus on the theme of kindness in the month of November, but also the literacy skill of inferencing. So I've talked about that a lot at our breakfast across the district, and so that's going to be happening, and that's launched on the Dean and Dane Show, which was released today. I wanted to thank publicly all 7 schools for welcoming me over the last month. This year I'm hosting breakfast in the schools. I visited all 7 schools over the last month, and we had coffee and donuts or whatever we decide to have on that morning in each of our 7 schools. And we just have casual conversation about what's going on in their schools, and faculty and staff are invited to ask me anything that they want. And those conversations have been great, very spontaneous, no agenda, and I really enjoyed those. It's a great opportunity for me to be in the schools more. And we'll start the second round of that after the Christmas break. This Friday I'm hosting a breakfast at the warehouse for buildings and grounds folks and food service, and then one in a week or so at transportation, and we'll start that routine over again after break. I want to share with you the first video of the capital campaign for the capital project. We're going to be doing a whole host of video productions, not only produced in-house starting tomorrow. We're going to be generating the first of 7 videos that are going to be produced and posted by WBUC faculty and students. Victoria Tripp is actually going to be she's going to co-anchor those videos with me, and they're going to be student-based. We're starting at Minetto tomorrow to generate the first video. Those will be running through WBUC and Channel 16, as well as on our website, Facebook. And there's also the first video, which is a more comprehensive, feel-good video about the capital project with all the most important information that's going to be launched first, and you're going to have the first snapshot of that tonight. And then there'll also be another series of 7 smaller videos that are produced by city BOCES that focus school by school, and those are more interactive. That taping has already been done. The production and the putting together of those 30 to 50-minute videos is in the process now. Those will include some drone footage of site work, roof systems, and those are more conversational. Some of those videos include conversations and this work's already been done. This was over the last few weeks, but at the middle school, for example, there's a conversation between me and the head custodian in the boiler room and looking at windows. At Riley, it was a principal. At another school, it was a teacher. We were in some classrooms at Layton. So those videos have already been filmed and they're in production. But tonight, just to kind of launch the whole idea of all the exciting things you're going to see coming around the capital project, I thought I'd give you a quick peek at video number 1. And thanks to Rebecca for that. The Oswego City School District is a beacon of light in our community, and I would like to share how we ensure that light never dims. To protect our facilities, we're proposing a capital project that will make significant improvements to all 7 schools with little impact in the out-of-pocket expense of taxpayers. These improvements will ensure the safety, savings, and success of our students. Our top priority is to offer safe teaching and learning environments which enable our students, staff members, and visitors to thrive inside classrooms and elsewhere on school grounds. Some learning spaces and outdoor surfaces need repair or replacement to protect the health and well-being of all who occupy our buildings at any given point in time. The life cycle of several windows, doors, boiler systems, roofs, and select other outdoor spaces are nearing the end of their usability. Several additional improvements include classroom wall restructuring, required water system updates, carbon monoxide detector system replacements, and asbestos abatement, among others. Thanks to an increase in state building aid and a larger transfer of capital reserve funds, the total out-of-pocket cost for the average homeowner in the city of Oswego will be less than $1 a year. This capital project and the improvements have been decades in the making. These improvements are investments in the future of our students. They provide equality of opportunity for every child in our district, and they make our district more competitive and attractive to those families who may choose to join us. Please remember to vote on December 18th. I wanted to thank Rebecca. Is Rebecca here? Our PR folks at City BOCES have been very helpful, very professional, hardworking, generating a lot of great things for us, and there are a lot of things planned as we roll out this capital project pretty aggressively, and that's just a snapshot of what's to come, really.
That was great. Especially the spots and
I think you'll see that the building-based videos are really going to be great too, because they're more conversational, they're more quick hits of things that are problematic in each building, and we're getting the feedback from staff in the buildings about, well, for example, in the music, we were talking to the music teacher, what's the impact on student learning? What's the impact of the work that we're doing in the schools on teaching and learning right from the source? So I wanted to thank Rebecca. I knew she was coming tonight, but I don't see her. And the last thing I wanted to do is we have a new staff member who wasn't able to be at our welcoming at Minetto of our new staff. So Jamie, would you like to?
Yeah. We'll be right here if you don't want to. You probably didn't need to really get up anywhere, but small enough room. Dan Rupert is joining us in district, and he was actually teaching a professional development course for our teachers at the last board meeting, which is why he wasn't able to attend. Dan is actually a 1994 Oswego High School graduate, and you might look familiar because he's been with us through City BOCES as a service that we got through them. But through the budget last year, we were able to have him full-time working with our teachers and students in classrooms this year as a technology integration specialist. Dan's had several different jobs throughout the years that he worked with elementary and secondary students, but he also taught an online college course, so he's got quite a big background with students of all ages. Dan's actually, he lives somewhat local, right on the border of Fulton and Oswego. I can tell him, jump over the line, come over to Oswego. But he's married with 2 kids, and he's really looking forward to working with teachers in Oswego, continuing to build those relationships that he built the last several years with us already. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the consent agenda, minutes of the regular Board of Education meeting of October 16, 2018. Approval of the Treasurer's Consolidated Report Monthly Budget Status Report in the Oswego City School District Financial Report, September 2018. Special Education Board Report, October 30th, 2018. Fund Balance Projection, October 2018. Is there any questions? Could I have a motion?
Move it.
Second?
Second it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. Next, we'll move to personnel. Or, I'm sorry, curriculum with Carrie.
Go right
Bass.
Okay, so A for curriculum is a new course proposal in Oswego High School, Social Studies. It is a half-year course, 1 semester course, and it will cover the 20th century American wars. Mr. Mallett is the one that put the course proposal in and will be the instructor for the course.
Any questions?
I just have a quick question. I'm excited to hear my son loves American history, so he's going to be all over that class. I think that's awesome. But how does that work as far as like when new classes, I know like Gretchen put some classes for it. I remember a couple other, I think, math. So is it based upon how many kids sign up for the class? Like what, is there a number that we have to reach before they say, yes, we're going to have the class? Just how does it work?
Or also the options that might be needed to fill a void of students currently that we recognize currently they don't have enough offerings. So we look at what we currently have, and teachers do put forward proposals and.
So, sure, Mike currently teaches a Civil War half-year course, so this will then butt up against that and create like a full year
Yeah.
option. So right now, he was running always 1 section, sometimes 2, depending on student interest. We look to, depending on the level and the opportunity within that particular content, we look to have about 8 to 10 students to make sure that we can run that course. Anything fewer than that, we may start looking at, well, should we be running another section of something else instead?
So 8 to 10 is the minimum, and then, okay. Thank you.
If this was Mr. Mallett's idea to come up with this course, I thank him. As a veteran, with November coming up and Veterans Day, I think a lot of our young people today, they don't really understand. They have the freedom, but they don't understand how they got that freedom. I think it's important that we remind them and teach them. So thank you.
We win.
Motion, please.
Move it.
Second?
Second it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed.
Okay, B is for the Oswego Travel Club. Their 2020 trip right now is to go to Athens and the islands in June 2020. And Lisa and Sarah are here to answer any questions you might have about the trip If you want to even join them, I don't know, they can give you those details. And it will be a cost for a little over $4,000 per student.
Any questions?
What's the timeline for like signing up?
Students can sign up as soon as it's approved by the board, and they can sign up until pretty much next, January is usually when we would cut it off, January of 2020. But we try to give the kids 2 years to pay for it. We'd like to try to advertise at the middle school as well for the 8th graders, because they will be 9th graders next year.
Oh, okay.
We do it every 2 years just because of the costs, to give parents the opportunity to spread those costs out a little
Okay,
bit.
that's my next question, so it's every 2 years?
Every
Okay.
2 years we travel, yeah, we went to every 2 years probably
Four or 5 years ago.
just because it was, we just felt with the economy, it was too much for parents, right?
That makes sense.
Lisa, there are no dates on here yet, but I assume it's gonna be like it was with European.
Right
trip
after
where you-
graduation, I wanna say it's June 28th or the July 3rd, we looked at the calendar, so that it would definitely be after graduation, because my daughter will be graduating, so it'll be after graduation. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, if I remember, I want to say the date was like July 3rd.
I think it was in July, I can probably find it, but it's a 3-day window they give us around that date.
Now, is there, what about like ages? Does it matter what grade the students are in? Or?
Typically, we aim for students who are enrolled in our building. The trips are geared, that they'll lump us with other groups, and they typically are high schools, so we just find that's a little easier to manage. But again, we wanted to be able to propose this to 8th graders because they'll be able to come on up and join us at that too, so.
I know, we did take, my daughter went when she was finishing 8th grade, moving into 9th grade, because at
Okay.
that time clubs were being cut, and I wanted her, she'd never gone, and I had, and she was not happy, so we would consider that, but generally it's 9 through 12, and then any adults who are interested.
And what about the amount of people? Do you have like a cap for how many, or is?
There's no real cap. I mean, the company will take as many as we can. A bus is about 50 people. We've never reached that number. I mean, we'd love to because that would be the entire trip. But we typically average 20 to 25, somewhere in that range.
And do you have to have so many, what's the word I want to say?
Enrollees to go.
No, like parents to be like chaperones or adults or?
It's a ratio of 6 to 1, so for every 6 students who sign up, we get a free chaperone spot. So Sarah and I will always go together, and in the years where we didn't get 12 kids, we've paid the difference
Right.
to make sure, because it's too hard to do alone.
Oh, I
And there's been a couple times that that's happened where we've had to pay for that difference. But for every 6, and then we kind of pick people to be, but we tell parents who sign up, if you're signed up and you're paying, you're not a chaperone. Dr. Sweeney has gone as a chaperone before. My husband went a few times, once as a chaperone and sometimes as a paying participant. It just depends on our enrollment.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks for doing it. I think it's a great opportunity.
I did send some information about our last trip, and some pictures and stuff to the board, so if you're interested, it's a very small snapshot, but we did Dublin and London this past summer, so I sent some pictures from that in PowerPoint.
Is it every other year?
Every other year.
So what kinds of things do you do when you meet with your group between now, other than talking about your fundraising efforts and
Right.
things like that? Do you try to front load them with knowledge about the destination?
We do. We usually try to pinpoint, we know the agenda for the trip, so we'll pick a significant city if we're going to different cities or landmarks in the city to focus on, try to educate them. If it's a country where we're not native speakers of English, we'll do some practice a little bit with the language. So when we went to Athens the last time, we tried to practice our Greek, we were not very good, but at least help in bathroom, that's always good.
And generally, we've done this long enough that the kids tend to pick the same tours because it's
Yeah.
kid-driven. So we've done a lot of them before, so we can speak and show pictures of ourselves in those places. Because we've done Greece twice now. This specific tour we did once, it was more than 10 years ago. The last time we did it, we actually went to Turkey. It's on the Library of Alexandria, which is no longer on the agenda. But, so we can show them pictures that we took and talk about that.
Great,
That's awesome.
thanks.
Could I have a motion, please?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, and C is a new course proposal at the high school for a math course. It will be a college algebra 1 class, a 2-semester course, but it will also be dual credit with 3 credits from Cayuga Community College. And this again, they recognize that many students only had 3 courses to choose from after they got out of Algebra 1, the 3 apps and sports and medicine. So they needed another place for certain students to go, another course offering. So that this came from the.
Any questions? Motion?
Move it.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we'll move to personnel with Dr. Sweeney.
A, a support staff retirement. This is an amended retirement date for Sharon Ulmer. She had previously put in for, I believe it was December 1st, and then realized through some conversations with the retirement system, she actually needed to be officially retired November 30th.
Any questions? Motion?
Move it.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
B, support staff retirement for Kathy Tice at Fitchie Park School. Whereas Kathy Tice has served students and staff of the school district for the period December 1st, 2004 to the present, and has been a most responsible, conscientious, and dedicated staff member in service to the school district. Now therefore be it resolved that the members of the Board of Education of the Oswego City School District hereby acknowledge the faithful service of Ms. Tice upon accepting her resignation for the purpose of retirement from the position of food service helper effective December 28, 2018, and we express our grateful appreciation to her.
Any questions? Motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
C, support staff retirement for Ronald Skasha Jr. from the warehouse. Whereas Ronald Skasha Jr. has served the students and staff of the school district for the period of April 19, 1990 to the present, and has been a most responsible, conscientious, and dedicated staff member in service to the school district. Now therefore be it resolved that the members of the Board of Education of the Oswego City School District hereby acknowledge the faithful service of Mr. Skasha upon accepting his resignation for the purpose of retirement from the position of warehouse coordinator effective March 29, 2019, and we express our grateful appreciation to him.
Any questions? Motion?
I'll move it.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
D, professional staff recommendation, resignation. Ben Heckathorn, boys assistant track coach, effective 10/31. You'll actually see that he is volunteering for the program. He's got some other commitments right now and needs to balance his time.
Any questions? Motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
E, professional staff recommendation, probationary. Eileen Sawyer, special education at the high school, effective November 30th. And Christine Superak, Spanish. This is one of our new positions, so Kathleen, you had asked about that previously, so we made sure that we marked it so. At the high school, effective 10/31. Be it further resolved that the probationary expiration date will depend on the individual teacher's APPR ratings, and therefore be it further resolved that to receive tenure, the individual must receive overall APPR ratings of effective or highly effective in at least 3 of the 4 preceding years, and therefore be it further resolved that if the teacher receives an ineffective composite or overall APPR rating in their final year of probation, they won't be eligible for tenure at that time.
Any discussion?
I have a couple questions. The first one is with the new position, for the Spanish position. So where does that come from?
So we had added a French teacher back in the summer.
And that was a new position as well?
Yes, yes. And we advertised for quite a while trying to find a French candidate, and were unable to find one. So then we talked to Mr. Wallace, looked at the enrollment numbers, and decided that because we have dual certified language teachers, Spanish would be as helpful. So we were able to re-advertise for a Spanish teacher. So you're asking specifically the funding for that position back when
So,
we made the
but just to go
decision.
back, so then you're saying, so we advertised for a French teacher but never hired a French
No.
teacher? And then switched it to Spanish? Okay, so I follow you there. So then my initial question
Yes.
was, with it being a new position, because I know we've had some other new positions previously since the budget was, approved last year. And that's my question is like, so of the 22 new positions that we added into the budget, how many of those positions do we still have yet to fill, or how many did we not fill to compensate for these new positions?
Well, that's a good question. Of the 22 that we originally proposed in the budget, I think those are all filled. I can't think of any that we proposed that we didn't fill over the summer. But this language position specifically, so once we recognize a need after the budget is approved and we have positions sorted out the way we would think we would need them, well, then Dr. Bui and I might have a discussion about the instructional needs and then turn to Nancy, our friend, and say, we have this need, is there budget money that can be moved around a little bit in order to provide the instructional programming that is lacking?
So at the end of the day, from a cost perspective, we're not increasing our budget or we're not adding to any line items.
No.
So we're making a decision to not do something else to do this, or from a funding perspective as well as maybe from a course perspective as well.
It could be that, or it could be try to squeeze a little money out of a few lines that we think we padded sufficiently in order to create a position that fills a gap or a need. Yeah,
We reallocate.
we never increased the budget at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gotcha. That was the question. No, that's good.
And how does that affect scheduling? So like, she's coming in tomorrow,
Yes.
or effective tomorrow. What about the, I mean, like, I know that there's some Spanish classes that have 29 kids in them. So what do you do with all the scheduling with that? I
So,
mean,
yeah, absolutely, fair question. So it is really difficult after the start of the year to make those kinds of scheduling changes. So now what we're going to do is, we have some students who were not successful in their first attempts at a language. And so they're not always placed because the requirement for graduation is at least one language credit. So what we're going to look at is, for the rest of this semester, are there some kids we can move around and try to work out a prioritized Spanish curriculum? We've never done a Plato language course, but we've talked about that. Is that a possibility? Credit recovery, for those of you who might not realize what our Plato program is. So is there an opportunity maybe to look at second semester? Are there some students who are not successful at that point and they could loop back into either a prioritized curriculum or a Plato recovery course, rather than wait until the end of the year to make that kind of a decision? Now we can maybe look at this and say, okay, now we've got a little bit of room to pull some of those kids back in, give them another opportunity to be successful.
I have one more question on that.
Sure.
How many, not necessarily that, but how many open positions do we have currently in the district?
Unfilled probationary positions?
Yes.
3, I take that back, because we are still looking for a science teacher. But 2 elementary, 1 science.
In high school, science.
Yes.
Any other questions? Motion?
Move it.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
F, professional staff recommendation, probationary teaching assistant, Tiffany Pauline, at the high school. And this is also a new position. So we initially budgeted for, I don't want to say extra because they're never extra, but in anticipation of how needs might change, this was half of one of those positions that we had budgeted for in Lisa Carter's special education budget. And there is a need at the high school in a particular classroom setting for an additional teaching assistant. So again, after some discussions with Mr. Wallace and Dr. Bui, I went to Nancy and said, we have half of the teaching assistant position budgeted. Can we find the money for the other half, because there is a need.
Any questions? Motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
G, extra compensatory recommendation, Safe Bucks. This is the after-school program that we've had for the last year, and we're going to get this rolling. Here, I can probably talk a little bit about the funding, but I think we finally made some headway in getting the funding for the program, let's hope.
I hope so. I'm in the claims spot with the state right now, so I'm in the claims.
Trying to get
Yeah.
So this is the group who would work with that program.
Any questions? Motion? Ryan, second?
Second it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
H, extra compensatory recommendations at the high school. We are launching a fishing club, and Sean Crocio will be the advisor. And again, because this is the trial year, the stipend is zero for that first year.
Any questions? Motion?
Move it.
Second?
Second it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I, extra compensatory recommendation, 18-19 winter sports, JV cheerleading coach, Brianna Fernandez.
Any questions? Motion?
Move it.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
J, extracurricular volunteer recommendations for the 18-19 winter sports season as presented.
Any questions? Motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
K, extracurricular volunteer recommendations for the 19 spring sports season as presented.
Any questions? Motion?
Move it.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
L, support staff recommendations, resignations. Tyler Broadwell, he is, I believe, the last of the group. They were placed into other positions, and so he can resign from his custodial worker position. Judith Fitzgerald, school monitor, part-time from the middle school, and Stefan Mazarowski, computer aide at the district technology department.
Discussion? All in favor? Or motion?
Move it.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
M, support staff recommendation, probationary. Kristen Adner, teacher aide part-time, KPS. Denver Carter, school monitor, part-time at the middle school, along with Sarah Magano, school monitor, part-time also at the middle school. Candace Clavelli, typist here at the Ed Center. We're finally filling Anna's retirement position. And Carissa Carson, typist at the high school, who's replacing Sharon Holman.
Any questions? Motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And support staff recommendation, provisional. Crystal McMahon, health office assistant, part-time at the high school. And John Miro, he's just amended from provisional, from probationary to provisional, computer aide part-time for the district.
Any questions? Motion?
Move it.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, support staff recommendation, permanent appointment, Erica Zaman. Erica, this is a new position, but she was our part-time nurse, so she's moving from part-time to full-time. There was a medical need over at PG Park School for that position. And then Erin Knopf and Erica Ritz completed their probationary appointments.
Any questions?
Do we have nurses at all schools now? No,
Yes.
that was our last one to fill.
Actually, we had already a full-time nurse at Fitchy Park and a part-time, but the medical need required really for there to be two full-time nurses.
Is that the only school that has two nurses?
No, the high school always has two. And Minetto has,
Well, historically, 1.5, depending on particular needs here in the IEP or 504 plan. And depending on the fragility of how those particular students that might be there. During my time, it was always 1.5. I don't know what it is now.
it's still 1.5 in the nursing office. And then there are some additional nursing positions for
Classroom
students
for
based
particular
on
students.
items.
Motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And P are substitute and temporary employees.
Any questions?
I just have a couple questions. So with the substitutes, how we doing on our numbers for substitutes?
Well, you would think, based on our numbers, that we would be flush with subs, but we're not always as successful as we want to be. We're recruiting a lot of different people, but sometimes, like with the college students, they might only be available one day a week, depending on the class schedule. But we are I did an orientation last week, and we had 14 subs present for an orientation, which is pretty solid.
What would be our number? Would you know? Would you have a
Well-
ballpark idea?
On any given day, we might possibly need 70 subs.
We need 7 subs, but our list, we
Well,
have a
that's what I
list
mean, we might have
of hundreds,
hundreds
but
on
the
the
ability
list.
to
But
fill
we have
because of,
Florida snowbirds, we have people who are only available certain days of the week or certain days of the month. So when you look at it, any given day's availability, sometimes the need doesn't match what we have available.
So how often is that happens? So district-wide, you're saying 70 people, 70 positions will be needing a substitute. How often is that? It just seems like a huge
A few
amount.
times a week.
A few times a week?
I mean, we have conferences, we have professional development, we have committee on special education meetings, we have data meetings, but we do try to minimize the number of teachers who are pulled on any one day. Carrie manages a Google Calendar that the principals have access to, so that you can maybe make mindful decisions about when you're planning your meetings and when you're sending people to certain conferences. And then, of course, every day you have your assortment of people who have time off for various reasons.
And so what happens if you have 70 teachers out and you have 30 subs to cover those positions?
So in the Oct 2 language for this contract, we made a change where there is that opportunity for teachers to fill in for absences when we've exhausted all other opportunities to get some. So that has helped some. This is a pilot for this year, so we've been getting feedback and monitoring it.
So like if they have their,
Lunch.
period, then they would earn.
They get a stipend for that.
For elementary.
There's a stipend attached to it as well.
Yeah. For-
Okay, I kind of remember.
Yeah, I think
these
there was a,
positions, yes.
and for
Practice, sorry. For years, the practice was, it was more challenging in secondary because they're content teachers.
Right.
In the elementary, the go-to unfortunately was an AAS teacher or a teacher who taught us some special program intervention list. And that got to be problematic because they weren't seeing the students who needed the intervention. But you had to have a third grade teacher, so we would do that. And now we've made some accommodations to, lighten the sting of that a little bit for them in the contract.
Now, would you say, is it typical to do like trainings and that during the school day as opposed to doing it after?
sometimes things are a little out of our control, things that are run through BOCES, like just recently we had a science kit training. So for any teacher who, what grade is it?
Actually, it's coming up this Thursday, Friday. We're going to have a science training for grade 4, and they'll be driving down, or going to Fulton. We're partnering with Fulton with the science. So there'll be 15 teachers out in the district or elementary on those 2 days.
And because other organizations might run these trainings, we don't necessarily have say over when it could be offered. Our own trainings, we try to offer outside of the school day whenever possible. But there's commitments during the school day for teachers as well.
And I know we struggle as a county to provide training to accommodate it, but we know it's a challenge. So when we do what we can, and we can really only assume we're doing a percentage. And that's why we try to do something this summer so that, we could reach out to some staff in the summertime and not pull them when they're in school. But because we can put it out there and say, fantastic event, you can say, yep, I want everybody to go, but this is what you're facing.
Yeah.
And that's all my business, so it's.
So just so I understand, if we take an AIS teacher and put them into a classroom, they get a stipend for that, is that accurate?
Yeah. Can you talk
So-
specifically to that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. So when we,
So the short
So
answer
the
is
answer
yes.
is,
Yes.
yes, the answer to that is yes.
Yep.
But because we don't have subs, that person, even though they're getting maybe paid more, we're we're still not providing the service in which they're there for, correct?
That's right.
And that happens often.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a shame.
But I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that's
That's-
not just Oswego, that's.
No.
It's the whole,
that's-
it's the whole.
I remember talking to Chris Todd about that, and saying that there's, isn't it like the next 3 or 4 years, there's a projection there's gonna be a shortage of.
Yes, in
In fact,
5 years, 1/3 of the teaching staff is going to retire.
In fact, there was
And
a
they don't have
special
to pull
highlight
back
this
in.
morning on Channel 9 about the massive regional teacher shortage and the lengths that districts are going to be creative. I mean, you remember that a year ago, we were the only district in the county that required our subs to have a bachelor's degree. And we changed that practice. So now they have to have an associate's degree or be a college student in their junior or senior year in a college preparatory program. So we've lightened our expectation to generate. Heidi did recruitment events. We did a lot of letter writing, recruiting, colleges and universities, and it yielded some success.
Oh, yeah, we've had
And,
quite a number of college students.
So we have brought in a lot of new subs and we have an orientation program for them now, but the shortage still exists. Yeah.
Have you guys talked to other districts, like ideas that they've done? I mean, how you were saying that a lot of people have gone to great lengths to come up with.
So I actually just went to a negotiators roundtable down at OCSD where it had people from pretty much all over the state, except maybe the far north country. There were about 6 students there that day. And we were there for 2.5 hours, and that was a discussion for almost an hour and a half of it.
The shortage.
Yeah, shortages, creative ways to boost attendance, incentives, programs, recruiting subs to your district so they can stay and come work for you as opposed to go down the road to the next district.
That's
So,
another
a lot
challenge.
of our
We have
focus.
subs that are maybe on a sub list in other surrounding districts as well, so it's catch you if you can, get who you can first. A lot of our teachers reach out to subs on their own that they know and are comfortable with. Can you work for me on the 12th? Before they put it into the sub-service so that they can capture them before they might get grabbed by another district.
And so I'm gonna circle back to you earlier tonight, and that's why we need to improve our overall picture with facilities and such, so
Right.
people
Right.
want to. So
Yeah.
We're competing with the other districts when people just say, no, it's not what's out there. It's these buildings
That's right.
and the tools that we're giving our teachers to be able to want to, you know, I wanna come and teach you. you
Yeah,
know,
I think we see that Onondaga County schools it's easier for them to pull in substitutes from a larger geographic area where we are really a destination. So subs that work for us might be on the sub list at Fulton or Mexico or Hannibal, but that's about as far out as we reach. Where if you were in Onondaga County, you might be at Camillus, Marcellus, Liverpool, CNS. You know, so you're pulling from just, you know, their footprint is better. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
There's nobody else there.
So then I just have one other question, and this just has to do with personnel in general. So like, when we see our backup with, new hires and stuff like that, how is it determined, like, sometimes there'll be an interview committee of 7 people, and then other times there'll be an interview committee of 1 or 2 people. How is that determined?
Well, it kind of depends on the position and time of year, number of candidates, who we can pull together for certain things. For, let's say, maybe a typist position, you might only see the current person if we're still lucky enough to have somebody there, like a retiree, maybe Sharon, heading out at the high school. The principal or the director who might be working with that person, and then maybe another support staff who could provide some feedback on the actual position. Sometimes the committee would be substantially larger if you were going to run committees all day long, or maybe a probationary teacher. If you've got 7 or 8 candidates you're bringing in and you're going to have those teachers get subs for the entire day to then join you as an interview committee. So,
And you determine who determines who is going to
that principal or director selects from their building. It tends to be grade level, content, some teacher leaders. If you're at a secondary level and there's a team leader who might be able to partake of it. Sometimes because, let's say we're still looking for a library media specialist here at Layton. Obviously, that's a singleton, so Kara has reached out to other buildings to invite those library media specialists to then partake on the committee.
And then my last question is, like, again, like in referring to our backup, like when we're reading through, you know, everything from a resume, you know, all the way out through everything, is there a way that we could see, I mean, partially see it, but not completely, like the interview committee, like say they meet and they, I know just because I sat on one time, and then they come up with their, you know, sometimes their recommended person, or sometimes their top two that then go to you guys. Could we be able to see that, like who the committee says as a committee as a whole, these are the people that we are pushing forward? Could we see that in the backup too, so that then we see who the top choices were?
Isn't the list of interview candidates on the
worksheet?
Right,
worksheet
but there's
that the
nothing
principal
on there that
provides?
says this is who, as a committee, we say is our top two or our top three or whatever. So it's like we see, you know, who interviews and we see who is doing the interviews, but we don't see who the interview committee is recommending to you guys to go to the next step.
Well, we could probably have some discussion about that. The way the process is laid out is that the principal or the director usually sends their top candidate or their top two candidates for us for consideration. And usually in our discussions with them, when they send us, let's say they're gonna send us two.
Which is usually the case,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They tend to be happy with both of them. Our discussions with the principals and the directors have been, if you are sending names to us, it's because you are happy with living with either of the pick. And then they have a different round of questions with Carrie and me. More about philosophy, vision and mission, match of interest. And then they have an informal discussion with the superintendent. Sometimes I call them back up and say, you know, hey, we liked them both equally. Maybe talk to your team and say who's a better fit for your building. Sometimes we call them up and say, well, we loved this person and this person was okay, and what do you think about it? And we ask them for their input. Sometimes they come down and sit and talk to us about it.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, just so we can see that, you know, these are the people that this committee put forward, and then you guys chose from these two people. I'm just saying, like, have that in our backup. I would like to see that. I don't know what anybody else thinks. Everyone be quiet.
I don't know, I guess my opinion on it, just because, you know, from our experience hiring superintendents in the past, it would go to the committee before it came to the board, and we told them we didn't want them to rank them for us.
Right.
We wanted them to give us a couple names. Do you remember that, Sam? But we didn't ask them to rank them for us, because it ultimately was our decision. So I guess,
Well, I'm
you know,
not saying
look at
rank
it
them, I'm
that
just
way.
saying, just so that.
She just wants to
Yeah, just,
But
So
you-
no,
she was saying.
She, yeah, but you're saying your recommendation was 1 and 2. You don't want that rank, you just want to know the two that are pushing forward.
who are they saying are going forward to them? Because like
To the
we
two,
see,
yeah.
these are people all interviewed, and then all we see is then the final decision. So we don't ever know who the interview committee says, these are the people we're putting forward. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's the missing link.
Oh, I thought we did get that. I thought
Now remember
we
too,
used to have a list of the people that interviewed for the position.
But we don't see who they say they pushed, that they are saying, these are our people that we're sending to.
It's all Amy's looking for is the committee results
Right.
of the top two.
So it
that they're
just
pushing
says-
on you to. That's
Yeah.
all.
please, Hannah.
Well, it's fine to ask them to even put a little asterisk on the worksheet
Yeah.
too. So you would
Indicate
know
who
that
they are.
Right.
Sally Smith and John Brown, those are the two
Those are
little
the two
bars.
who,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Two
it doesn't need to be
people
anything
were
fancy, just an indicator that says, as the committee, this is who they chose to go to you guys, and then whoever you choose, you choose, but just so that we know,
Yeah.
just that
So
line
you
of
just want to know
communication
who
is
the 2 or
good.
3 finalists were.
Who are the two names?
Okay, but not
If there was more than
no,
one, who were they?
Okay.
Just who they
I
are.
think it's important though to point out that that selection committees that are put together by principals or principals and directors for teacher positions in schools are advisory. Now, I can only talk about what I did as a principal for 13 years. I always tried to find consensus on the top 2 candidates or the top, sometimes it was one candidate and everybody was like all in. Yeah, this is the person. But it is advisory. The principals indicate or should indicate to their committees that you're advising me, you're helping me to make this decision. But ultimately, the principal I think we have to be careful not to assume that if a principal puts 2 names forward, that decision was
Unanimous from the committee.
unanimous. Because the principal is the person that's making the recommendation to the superintendent for his consideration and possible recommendation to the board. So, I think that typically that's the case, that it is consensus, but just,
I would
just
hope
to be
that there
clear.
was misalignment between the committee and the principal, that the committee and the principal would have a discussion about.
They would have already worked that out.
Right.
Yep,
I would assume that.
yes, yep,
If it doesn't, then
yeah.
that's an issue.
If it didn't, we'd hear about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think.
Any other discussion? Motion on item P, please.
Make a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. Next, we move to finance with Nancy Squires.
A is a memorandum of understanding with Peggy Pisa as a reading aid for Trinity Catholic Christian School at the rate of $11.10 an hour, not to exceed $541. And this is to be paid from the Title I funding.
Any questions? Motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed.
B is an agreement with Oswego Hospital. This is for physicals and drug testing for our transportation department at $2,770 for the year to be paid for by the transportation budget.
Any questions? Motion?
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. Next on the agenda is committee discussion. Would there be any items for committee
I
discussion?
can, I'll speak, we had the first Community Relations Committee meeting last night, and it was really fantastic. I contacted, and Tom as well, some community members to sit on this Community Relations Committee to provide us with feedback from the community. So last night, and I kind of, when writing the agenda, I put a bunch of talking points on there, and then I wanted it to be more of like a natural, like organic kind of discussion where it's generated by what the people in the community were feeling. And I think it turned out great. I mean, we got a ton of great feedback and ideas, and it all really pretty much centered around the capital project, which of course was very helpful with the capital project around the corner. And we just pinpointed some key stakeholders within the community and had, what, 10?
At least 10. 10 to 11
Yeah.
people, yeah.
And a couple people who will be at the next meeting. But it was really a great first meeting to open up and start creating those partnerships, whether it's, we've got someone from City of Oswego Health, Novellis, we have someone from the city, we have some parents, we have, I think that we-
Retirees.
Yep, retirees, a retired superintendent, we have,
Investment. Gary Benoyer.
yep, investment people, retired doctors. So we have a really great cross-reference of people who have volunteered. So it was a great meeting. I'm really glad.
Well, it was nice too because it kind of pulled everything off. At least to me, it felt like you're getting all the information back. You walk around all day and you have anecdotal situations where you talk to individual people. You say, does this represent everyone? Does this represent everyone? And then when you sit there in a room full of people and they start giving you the feedback that you need to hear, then you go, okay, that makes this conversation much more directed when we move forward. How do we talk to everybody? How do we communicate to all the different groups? So I thought it was very insightful. I thought it offered a lot of information, things that we hadn't seen before. It was their impression of the capital project, both past and present, and a way to go about the conversation moving forward. It's great.
If there's any other meetings.
We did have a facilities meeting on Monday morning, and we're, again, I keep saying this, but November 11th, the doors and windows should come to finish up the project over at the high school. It's getting there. It's just working its way down, and that's all I can say. I think you're going to hold off until the windows and doors are in, and then make the move over.
So we got to change security entrance and protocol.
Right. It is.
Any other items for committees? And next is student representative discussion. The student representative tonight.
Yeah, obviously it's tomorrow being Halloween, there's a lot of people intending on dressing up and having fun with that. Fall sports are winding back down, sectional states coming up for a lot of teams. And a lot of clubs, at least for me, are hooking up at this point now. Sports are coming back. Now, can kids wear costumes to school in high school? Yes. Okay. As long as they meet the dress code.
I made,
As long as they meet the dress code, yeah.
I made that announcement today.
Okay.
We had a talk.
Do a lot of kids do it? Do they dress up? A lot of kids, yeah. Sounds very creative. That's
Next on the agenda is items from the board. Do any board members have any items tonight?
I do. I just want to say real quick, I stopped in, Mr. Donabello, the phys ed teacher here, was doing a really fun thing in the gym, a spooky, just different activities and stations, and it was really cool because I got to see, the 4th grade and 5th grade there, and it's just a really neat, fun experience. You have a disco ball in the middle and part of the lights out, and it's not just phys ed, it's not just the kids running around, they put this skeleton together, so part of that physical education is learning anatomy, and it was really fun and really cool to see. The other thing is, going back, Dean, to your presentation, is there a way that you can put that Jamie, on the front page of the main page of the website so that we can share that and get that all over social media?
Yep.
Because people are getting their news from social media, unfortunately. But if we plaster that everywhere, just seeing those, and if we could get longer clips of some of the damage, that would be huge, so that people can understand. And I agree with what you said. Put a different line item for the fields, so that it's taken out of the high school blatant bulk amounts, so they can see that we're not putting in a $60 million field. That's the biggest piece of information that was missed. Right.
You'll see that all the videos focus on building work, because that's 95% of what we're doing, is improvement to teaching and learning spaces. You're going to see a lot more focus, long-term focus on those areas of concern in the shorter videos that are building to building. Here's a problem, this is why, this is the impact, not only on students, but on the building itself.
Right, but if we could make that really easy to share.
Yeah, and that was something that came up at the meeting last night too, that we talked about, was Bob had said, why don't we create a way to have all of this information so that you can just pick it up and then we can share it on Facebook and then just, have it spread super fast. So I think that that's something that the city and probably Jamie will work on, and you guys will be working on actually what the content is, whether it's going to be simple, easy to read, factual, graphs, just basic stuff that
There's going to be a capital project link off the main page of the website, and that's where all the videos will be cataloged and made available there. This one literally is hot off the presses, so we're not, this is today, was released. And then Jamie and Rebecca will be able to link from our website to Facebook, and then it can be captured and shared and shared and shared and shared and shared.
Good.
Did you have anything else?
No, that's all.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I did have something. I was, last week I was listening to some of that NPR, and it was talking about a program called Heal America, and then I happened to go talk to Dean, and it was about mindfulness in schools and about the programs of, basically taking kids away from screens and bringing them, and centering them. So I talked to Dean, and he said, oh, we've already got something like that. Well, it had been piloted over at Kingsford, and now they were doing it at Fitchview. So I spun right around on my heels, and I went over to Fitchview, and I sat down, and I just wanted to find out a little information about it. And Principal Simmons and Rebecca James sat down. We had a great conversation about it in terms of how much stress and how much trauma kids are under these days and are not developmentally prepared to handle that, and the challenge that is within the school because of that. And the program I'm going to go over and partake sometime this week, but really just about slowing down, backing down, finding the moments to be in a state to be able to learn, to be prepared to learn. So I think it's an awesome program. I want to go take part in it sometime this week, and just say to everyone else, take time from your phone, put it down, put it away, talk to the person next to you, take that moment. That's it. It was great. Thank you.
I was just going to say two things. It was brought to my attention last week. This is going to be odd, but it's a national magazine. It's a voting magazine, and they did a story on part of the Great Lakes and such, and they focused on Oswego one time. And Miss Ellie over there, who doesn't tell us a lot of things she does because she's really a busy person, they actually focused on the murals that was part of the story. And you've been doing it for how long? Yeah, sixth grade. And it's done that, so that's part of the thing. The other thing I want to say is picking on my friend Mr. Bach back there, that the profession I'm in, always, in all you teachers, what kind of impression you leave on kids. And in a positive way, I ran across a bunch of seniors who graduated last year, and they can't wait to get home for Christmas break so they can come visit you. So I think that's kind of a great thing to think that part of what they're talking about now is they can't wait to visit Mr. Bach over Christmas break. So I'm just at your forewarning, I guess.
Great.
So you've got to be there over Christmas break.
I just want to say, I wanted to thank Jim again for coming in, because I think your questions were great. And I think it's the same questions what, Dean said too, that we hear these questions over and over again. And I think, and we did talk about this at our meeting last night too, that we really need to make sure that we do answer these questions, and make that information well known, not just to you, but to everybody. Because I think that that's really the key. Knowledge is power, and we have to make sure that everybody is understanding 100%. A lot of times I think, we talk about the stuff that we're doing and just assume that it's, understood by everybody, and it's not. So I think that I thank you for coming in, because we definitely need to be cognizant of that and make sure that we are answering the questions for the entire community. And I kind of think, along with that, I was going to bring it up a couple weeks ago, and then I didn't, but there was a letter to the editor a couple weeks ago, and the gentleman, I think it was Mr. Schrader, was questioning things as to do with our accountability, student achievement, graduation rates, and things like that. And, obviously, it's all stuff that you don't want to talk about, because, you look at the numbers and you're like, this is pretty sad. But the reality of the situation is that those are the numbers. So I think that that, along with these questions, are things that we do need to talk about, and we do need to answer, and do need to be saying, yes, these things are true, or maybe they're not, or maybe the data is incorrect and we need to change it. But I think that we need to make sure that those things are addressed, because I think when we don't say anything, it just gets people thinking even worse. So I think that we need to make sure that when things like that happen, whether it's a letter to the editor, or someone comes and takes time out of their day to come here and talk, or someone even calls one of us with a question, and we share those with each other, and then we answer the questions publicly to let everybody know what's going on, and they know the specifics. So think that that's really important. So I would encourage us to have those kind of conversations, you know, whether it's in regards to the things that he brought up in the, you know, with the accountability and student achievement, graduation rates. The scores, I brought that up a couple weeks ago, like when you're going to look at a house and to move somewhere and you see what the scores are on the bottom for each one of the schools, and that's how people choose where they're going to live. So if you're looking at a real estate page and you see, you know, Oswego schools are rated 3, 4, and 5, and Baldwinsville's 8, 9, and 10, where are people gonna choose? So again, it's not something we wanna talk about, but I think the important thing is we talk about the great things that we're doing to try to raise those numbers, to educate the community, you know, rather than not say anything at all.
And focusing on the positive, because those
Right.
have been moving in that direction. So it's like, it's funny, it's because the conversation we just had was somewhat like the newspaper article. When the newspaper article comes out, and we talked about this last night, they'll focus on the negative because it's gonna move more papers. And they'll focus on that aspect of it. So I remember when they talked about the numbers going up, and the numbers are going up here, and it's like, this is great, but what did they put on the top of it? But still lag behind. But that's not the story. The story is still going up. The story is we're moving in the right direction. And that has to be what we focus on as well, because all those things are coming and moving in the right direction. And so it's little by little, but we're getting there.
And I think it's important to point out that that's what we have been doing. We did a pretty comprehensive 1-hour presentation 2 board meetings ago about the history of student achievement in our district, which is leading to the next presentation in November on graduation rate and poverty. So we do want to talk about it. We're excited and happy to talk about where we've been, where we are now, and where we're going next, and all the exciting things that teachers and principals are doing to get our kids to that checkered flag and have our percentage of graduation be better. So.
Any other items tonight? Would there be a need for executive session tonight? Okay, could I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.